Good evening, everybody. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 366, and tonight we'll be on the Winter Progressive Arnis Camp in Florida, which is Chad Bailey's. And tonight we have Chad, who will be basically, historically speaking, we'll be going over the camp and stuff. And then joining him will be GM's Bram Frank, you know, that knife guy, and those knives, and GM Bruce Chiu, who also will be joining us. And we're going to get their perspective on the camp and how they feel, why it's so important, how it's run, and all that. So without further ado, we're going to be bringing them up right now. So if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button, and we're just getting started. And folks, again, this is part of the whole Meyer Niece theme episodes. Okay, so, and I mean, and plus the camp. All right, here we go. And
hey, Dean.
Hey. All right. How's everybody doing?
Can you hear me? Everything just shut off. It kept telling me I was live and there was nothing there, so I signed off and re-signed on.
No, what happens is when I run live, I put you guys in a box and all that. That's all that was. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. So anyways, I signed off and signed back on in case it was.
No worries. You guys are here. So, all right. So the winter camp. So, Chad, how many years have you been doing it?
I started doing my camps back in 1997. They were at first just summer camps, mostly out in New Mexico and Colorado, but probably that was about the year 2000, probably two, somewhere around there. We started doing summer and winter, and then that's kind of when the winter camps here in Florida were born. And we kind of always try to do winter camp in Florida because all the people in the northern states want to get out of the cold weather.
Hey, I wonder
down
why.
To Florida for a while.
No, we had wind chill. It got from 46. The feels like temperature was 44.
I mean,
I'm telling you,
so much.
I don't know what's going on.
I had to wear socks, Chad.
Oh my god!
I know, and I know that's torture for you, bro.
How did you do it? You had to put socks on. I mean, how did you?
He thinks I'm kidding.
So, all right. So you started the winter camp officially in 2002. I guess when did you start inviting other instructors there? In other words, were your initial camps just basically just you teaching, or?
Yeah, I would say for almost the first 10 years of my camps up till about 2007, I was the sole instructor. And so, yeah, we would do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I would teach the whole time, which was very grueling and exhausting.
No, that's a lot. I mean, 3 days. I mean, you're just pounding it out. That's a lot.
And then in 2007, I invited my friend Mike Casto to teach at one of the New Mexico camps. And then after that, it was like I couldn't stop the roller coaster, which was guest instructors. Like now, anytime I even mention that I'm going to do a camp, one of my friends says, "Oh, that's close to me. Can I come?" And and they want to jump in and share and be part of it. So that's really how the guest instructor thing happened. It was just kind of like oh yeah, well, my students really loved hanging out with Mike Casto and learning Silat from him. So we said, hey, let's have him in camp as a guest instructor. And then it was like, then we had Arlen come, then we had, then we would have other people come, and it was just like, when one of my friends wants to come teach, I'm like, of course I want you to come teach. So for the winter camp, it's to the point now where I really like. Did I officially invite you, Bram, or did we just assume that you were teaching? Like, I don't even remember.
I think the first time, I think you just said, "Come on out."
Right.
And would you like to?
These guys usually just tell me, like, when is winter camp and what time am I teaching? Like, I don't even invite them anymore. It's just kind of like they want to come, and then if people aren't from my group, then they just contact me. Like this year, we're going to be super lucky to have two of the guys from Stockton Multi-Style, Chris LaCava and Nelson Pinto, are going to be at camp. And it was like, I met Chris at an event in South Carolina this year, and definitely wanted to bring him in and have him do some stuff. And then Nelson also had recently moved to Florida, so we were just kind of like, awesome. I want you guys to come in and everybody get to share with some of the stuff you got as well. So, that's just usually kind of how it works, is that, everybody just contacts me and says, hey, I want to be involved. Let's figure this out. And we get everybody there.
So it sounds like initially you were pulling fellow instructors just from Florida.
For these camps, for the Florida camps, it was pretty much just my friends who were around. Which
makes sense. Okay.
Has always involved Bruce and Bram, just because they're my my strongest connections here in Florida.
Yeah, they're there.
Me and Modern Arnis. So, I couldn't we were talking about that at my instructor camp. They were actually the only two guest instructors we had at my instructor camp were Bram and Bruce. And we were talking about it later with just, all my instructors, my black belts and instructors, was like, well, we can't really imagine a camp without Bram and Bruce. That would
Well, I want to know
what kind of
Chad's got that overall come be part of family. And I've always been family with Chad. And it just, I don't even, as he said, I don't remember how it came up, but it was really casual about coming to the first camp. And I teach at Chad's house. He used to have me come teach at the beach and out at the point, wherever Chad was. He goes, my guys would like to train with you, or they'd come with me. And so it's just family. And for Bruce to finally move his ass back to Florida, it just becomes part, because he's old family with us anyways. And Dean, you were there. Chad has an all-inclusive heart of gold. I think it comes because he's a healer. I think it comes from that healing thing, and he draws people in and goes, just share my family. And he shares his blood family, but he shares his student family and just invites us in. And you got to see it. It's one of the few camps we all get along. Matter of fact, we can't wait for the next guy to teach. And a lot of times, we don't want to be the lead guy, because whoever's the lead guy, everyone else feeds off of that.
That energy, what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to give my take on it.
And that's part of my strategy, too. It's like on Saturday, I put Bruce as the finale, because Bruce always does such a phenomenal job of showing how everybody tied certain things together and how it.
I remember that last year.
So I always try to put him closer to the end on Saturday, because I want to hear his tie up. He always has such a great way of showing, this guy did this and this guy did this, but look how we're the same, and showing us all that Remy really was right. It's all the same.
That was funny when you mentioned that, because I remember when GM Bruce went on, I'm like, and he goes, he's doing my 2-on-1 with the stick, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. I'm like, hot damn. I'm like, that's crazy. So that's one of the things I remember the most. But GM Bruce, what do you, in your opinion, how does the camp speak to you? I mean, what your overall thoughts on it?
I think it's a direct reflection of Chad. I had one of my good friends, a guy named Jack Hogan, and he was talking and he said, we got a good bunch of people, Bruce. And I said, it's because you're a good person. And I think it's the same here. If you notice, all the people, they don't come to the camp because of the camp. They come to the camp because of Chad. The good part about the camp is a reflection on him. I've said this before. I'll say it again. He's one of maybe the only person I know that when they say doesn't have the ego, really does. I mean, he's a great teacher, but if you notice, you ask him, he takes lessons from everybody too.
Yeah.
He teaches. He's always involved in other people's sessions. His thirst for learning is equal to his thirst, if not greater than his thirst for teaching. And I think that humbleness and that spirit of sharing is exemplified in the camp itself. The camp is a reflection of Chad. I remember the first time I met him, he came to camp that I had for Professor, and just immediately his energy is such that you want to be around him. That's what the camp says to me. I have a blast. Don't get me wrong. I love teaching. I love being with everybody. I love seeing and feeding off everybody. But it's we come to see Chad. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, I think in Chad's energy and attitude, the students who are showing up all expect that. They expect that they have an open smorgasbord of stuff to learn with absolutely no political crap thrown in. None of the FMA infighting and bickering, no martial art bickering. And Chad pulls people from all different groups where they have some kind of, contact point and goes, share. And the students who show up are coming there knowing they're going to get this really cool, multifaceted, table of stuff, a banquet table to draw from here. And at the end, like they were saying, there's, at the very end, Bruce is going to tie it all together and go, remember what you did yesterday, first thing in the morning? Well, we did that. Oh, remember when Chad did this in the afternoon? Oh, remember when Bram did this? Oh, remember when Danny, and the students come over time, they come expecting to go home with a whole bunch of points over here with a common thread because of his attitude and his going, let's learn.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that Professor used to always say. So you got to have fun, right? And
gotta have fun.
And I will tell you that if you ask the students on Monday or Tuesday after the camp, they might not remember what any of us did, but they'll remember they had a really good time.
Yeah, they had a good time. Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I remember at a camp at one point, this like almost everybody in the whole gymnasium was like slightly frustrated. They weren't getting what Professor wanted us to do. And he came over to me and he's like, Chad, they're not having fun. What are we doing? And he turned right around and he changed the whole day. Like his entire plan just went right out the window, and he went back to single sin Wally, and everybody started swinging sticks, and the energy changed immediately. And he brought it back to let's have fun and do some stuff. And within an hour, we were doing like incredible application stuff, but he needed to go a different direction because he wanted everybody to have fun and learn some stuff too. And to me, that's always been one of the things I've wanted in my camps is that if I look around and people aren't having fun, or if they're getting bored, or, if I see, everybody wants to take a nap, I'm like, okay, let's change the energy here. Let's get some stuff going. Let's get some stuff moving. And Saturday is a long day. We start at 8 in the morning, and we probably won't finish until about 8 at night. It's probably when we'll eat dinner, and everybody's going to go for 12 hours, and we're going to take a lunch break, and people will take breaks when they want. And that's the other thing too, is that we kind of set a standard on Friday. It's like, you're responsible for yourself. Like if you want to jam and you want to go to every single class and be there every minute and soak up every little technique that you can, then do that. But if you want to take a break, if you need to go for a walk, like if you've had too much and your cup is full and you need to go think a little bit to empty it, then go take a break. Like everybody's adults, and they can figure out what it is that they need and their limitations. So it's always open like that. And so you'll get some people who might sit out a session, but most of the time, guess what? They're sitting on the side watching, still
they're taking a break.
Notes, going like, I don't want to be out of here completely. I just can't move around right now. So, and so, I think that has to be involved. If we're going to do 4 hours on Friday and 12 hours on Saturday, and then another 6 hours on Sunday, we need to be having fun. That's the only way we're going to get through that amount of training, and everybody have a good time. So,
Chad is not telling anyone, and I'll tell you the secret is anybody who really doesn't participate, he's got a flogging station in the back. And he hangs them up, takes the cat of nine tails, whips the hell out of him, and goes, get back on that floor right now. Make sure you're smiling and have fun through all that pain.
I didn't see that. Yeah, that's it. But just being at different events, some going back 20 years ago. I'm not going to mention the name, but I've been to somewhere. It's somewhat pretentious, or in addition to being pretentious, there's an aspect where like you're the underling and the hierarchy, man. You just better do what you're told, get in line and all that. And if you don't know any better, you think that's the norm until you are exposed to a different format or a different way of doing things. And like I saw none of that last year in the camp. Like I just saw like it was just lack of a better cliche, like an even playing field. People didn't care what rank you were.
I remember one moment when Dan was teaching last year, and some of the younger students were having trouble with what he was doing, and he went over and he just spent time with them and made sure that they were getting it, so that they were being able to participate and have fun in his session. And it was kind of like I looked over there and I was like, man, Dan is working with like some of the younger, people here, and just like as if it was, anybody else. So, that's exactly what it's about.
Yeah. And where you'll see some of these other ones I've been at, it's like the guy will just, whatever he's showing or doing or teaching. And if you don't get it,
Dean, what you were saying also about hierarchy, some of the camps that I used to go to, whoever was teaching, and if you saw someone having trouble, you weren't supposed to go over and help them.
That's what I was saying.
When we're all together, people call out, go over to help out on anybody's session going, oh, yeah. And it's welcomed, that we open our mouths and do stuff and share. It's a family. It's truly tribal. FMA is tribal. And
more often than not, when I'm teaching something and then I go to look around to see if my black belts are helping other people, I'll also see Bruce up during my session helping somebody with my material. And it's kind of like, I would normally just expect that from my black belts, but Bruce is participating, and so he's like, hey man, let me help this person get through this. So I always appreciate that.
Like a couple events I've been and again, I'm not saying I'm talking years ago where whoever showed, like, they wouldn't really come around. And depending on how new
that is what it's all about, working with the students.
And depending on how new you are, you're going to be very reluctant to go to that person when you're not seeing them interacting or coming around. That's going to even put a further barrier between you going out maybe to seek help. So, I saw a lot of them, I'm like, this is just, now looking back, I'm like, that was just god awful.
But we got
it's just like, I don't care what rank and all that. If you're teaching something, you should take it upon yourself to go through everybody. Hey, you got any questions? Anything I can help you with? What do you think? Like, that just turns me off so much when folks can't just do that or be themselves available.
Chad lucks out too, in the sense that Chad, Bruce, and I go back decades together. We had the same instructor at the same time period. So we shared the training at the same time. And when we get out there, as Chad said, all of us are out there sharing at the same time. And we might have a little different perspective on things over time, but we're all out there as the fact that we're family with each other. And not one of us, as a matter of fact, we would all be upset if, like on my session, if Bruce and Chad weren't sharing and going, oh, this is what you're supposed to be doing in Bram's session. Chad does the same thing. If I'm not out there with Bruce, and of course on the stick session, I admit I'm a little slow getting out there. And the same thing with Bruce, but Bruce expects us to. We all expect each other to go help at any given time, and within a small percentage. Granted that we're all unique individuals, we learn from the same man at the same time period. And we're like the three amigos, because it wasn't like we didn't know each other back then. We're part of the Florida core. We were truly the part of the Florida family. And so going to Chad's camp is just an extension of Remy's energy.
Yeah.
And we
I
all
agree.
refer to him. You've been there.
Yeah.
We've been to other places where we've gotten together afterwards, went, they never mentioned Remy. They never mentioned anybody else they learned from. And we're always doing the opposite. We're talking about what we got for him, the other people we trained with that reflected to that. And we're always referring to each other. I think that's the coolest thing because we can get together at Chad's in a safe zone. And we're just being, as Chad said, as Remy said, go have fun. Because Bruce, Chad, and I are always laughing with each other and cracking jokes and being
Yeah.
sarcastic about each other. And the students pick it up because there's none, as you said, none of this black and white. Oh, yes, sir. Everybody's encouraged just to have a good time and learn.
Yeah.
You have you have Super Dan Anderson. Literally wrote the book on tournament karate and was world champion. Yet he's out there helping little kids, out there joking. He was out there smashing. My Chris. He's knocking Chris all over the place, beating the hell out of him and laughing. I mean, it's just. And again, I know I've said it, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's true. It's a reflection of Chad and what he's done. His curriculum that he developed for progressive Arnis, while has a lot of modern Arnis in it, yes, but it also has exemplifies again what Remy said about being the art within your heart, because he is taken the things that he has seen that might have from other systems and integrate into his. It really is a progressive system of modern Arnis.
Yeah.
It's
And that's kind of what the theme of camp is this year, is evolution, kind of like, where did things start and how have they changed? And it's like, I get evolution from both of these guys like every year, because Bram's stuff is a very obvious evolution of what we all did with Remy. And how many times did Remy have a stick in his hand and say, oh, you do this, he's cut. Well, he didn't get cut by a stick, and so Remy wasn't holding a stick when he said that metaphorically. So there was a lot of that stuff, and of course that comes up. One of the questions, one of my guys one of my black belts who's going to be at Camp Andreas from New Jersey, he asked, do I prefer outside camps or indoor camps? I think there's some advantages to both. Certainly like an indoor, like conference type camp can be great because, you have a little bit more control of the environment, and if you wanted to have mats or set up like that, like maybe like the Shurite conference that they have every year in Fort Mill, South Carolina, is fantastic. It's in a hotel. There's like 5 different dojo rooms like happening all the time, and it's amazing. My preference is outdoor camps. I love to camp. To me, part of the camp is that if people want to come tent camp and get out of the rigors of regular life and just kind of go back to being simple for a little bit and just come train and hang out. And tent camping is very affordable, and you don't have to, spend a whole lot of money to come have a great, fun weekend. So to me, that's always been one of the things, is I've always wanted to do outdoor type camps because it's more accessible for people. And in Florida, we get sunshine 365 days.
Oh, man, that's one of the big, besides yourself.
Why not use that? And,
you're in that weather.
We rarely ever get bad weather in February because hurricane season's over. And, so it's to me, doing an outdoor camp is kind of a no-brainer in Florida.
Yeah, you could do outdoors in your state, man. You guys should be doing. Obviously up here in Connecticut during winter, we really don't have a choice. You know what I mean?
No.
It's pretty much
right. And so I do other camps in other parts of the country, but most of those are at other times of the year when things aren't frozen.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Dean, we used to do camps in Vermont in winter. Because we wanted to show people, what are we doing this for? I said, you ever tried to do this stuff in winter clothing and on inclined ground with snow and ice on it? And we go, why would I do that? And you go, because that's part of reality. That's going to happen. And I was surprised at how many people would show up going, I've never been to a winter camp.
My wife even commented, I like outdoor camps better than indoor too.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
And if you go to the Philippines, guess what? We're not inside.
No.
You know, in 20 something years going back and forth to the Philippines, I can count on one hand the number of times we've been indoors. Oh, that's right. Only sometimes for the award dinner,
The award
you
ceremony.
know, on the banquet. Other than that, everything's outside. It's on the beach, it's in the field, it's in the jungle, it's in all of them. And because I don't like to be incinerated by the sun there or here, you know, I tried to find wherever Chad has some shade. Or in the Philippines, actually, I had them, and in Israel, it's freaking hot. We used to, you know, I used to have them put up tents just so we're not out in the direct sun. But all of my commandments of steel were always outside. I'm like, Chad, I think there's something about a camp. You get that picture in your head of a camp, and you only camp out with people you like. You stay in a hotel with anybody. You go to a resort with anybody. But a camp, you camp out with your friends and your family. So I like it that Chad brings it out, and we share food, and we share each other, and we do whatever, and it comes out in the training because, you know, I think all of us also teach less so the students learn more because we want them to have fun and take it back with them.
Yeah.
None of us are out there, and you were there. None of us are out there to show off what we know. Matter of fact, most of us are going, hey, look what that guy did. Let me just add to it. And I want you to be able to take it home. And we're always concerned about, did you make the connection? Can you see where this links to that? If you didn't, anytime, right. None of us, the three, and usually everyone else Chad brings in, if someone wants to take extra time and come, you know, ask a question, do whatever, we're all open for that at any time. So, yeah. So any of you listening, if you want to come to a great camp and it's still not too late, and you're sick of the weather somewhere else, just come on down to Florida because come to a family camp.
Danny made a great comment. He said, same material, but everyone will take away a different perspective and then share it with others.
Yeah.
So that happens for sure.
That's, you know, I think one of the other things that makes this camp unique is the accessibility of the instructors. So, yeah, we're going to have 12 hours on Saturday, but I'm going to tell you that after dinner or even during dinner, there's going to be a group of 2 or 3 with one of the instructors saying, hey, when you did this today, I didn't quite get it. It's very similar to something that we already do. Could you work? And you'll see little groups of 2, 3, 4 people all night.
Mini seminars.
Yeah. It goes on and on.
Yeah.
You know, that accessibility is also something that's, you know, like you said earlier, Dean, we've all been to those type of places where, you know, you had to always double check the knot on your belt to make sure.
Never again.
We're going to go up and do, hey, could you show me that again? He'd slap you in the head.
Or you couldn't even, or you wouldn't even be accessible.
Yes. Exactly.
Are we going to follow my suggestion from last night? Can we also do a virgin sacrifice to the Florida sun god?
a sacrifice? Sure.
Yeah.
Jason and Carmen both said, yeah, the camps help you get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because that when Jason gets in weather over 75, he starts to melt.
Yeah. Awesome. So when you start bringing other instructors in from the, well, I guess my first question is to Chad. What made you go out of state for instructors?
Well, the summer camps originally started in New Mexico, and so I was, trying to continue to do a Western camp for my students who were out there, and an Eastern camp for my students here on the East Coast. And so those two kind of became, the standards. And then we've been trying to do spring and fall camps as well, because I got groups in other places that want to get a full weekend of training. So. So yeah, it's kind of evolved to almost like a seasonal camp 4 times a year. And we try to pick different locations so that my groups in different places have at least one a year that's in their somewhat central location. This year we're doing winter camp in Florida, spring camp in North Carolina, summer camp in New Mexico, back to home. We're going back to actually the original Kempo school, where we kind of started the original summer camps. So that'll be kind of neat to go back home. And then fall camp is in Colorado this year.
Fall camp's in Colorado. When you consider instructors from that state, what is your criteria? In other words, do you try to get an even balance of blunt, edge, different styles, or just maybe perhaps uniqueness? I mean, is there certain things you look for besides the actual individual themselves?
I would say, again, it kind of comes down to, who puts the pressure on me and who calls me. Like last year, Dan Anderson really wanted to come to camp. And so I made that happen, because he wanted to come down with me and Bruce and, and Bram and he wanted to have that experience. So I wanted to make that happen. This year, I was trying to get Sean Zerger from out of town, but he is going to be currently in the Russian house in the Philippines, doing that. So I said, hey, man, that's way more important than doing that. So he's actually coming down in March. I'm hosting him March 19 and 20 down here in Florida. So he's going to come do a Dog Brothers and some of his, KI arranging experience and stuff like that. So we're going to have some fun with him down here, even though he's not going to be able to make it to the camp. And that's what I've been trying to do. It's like I just did a camp yesterday with Alicio, and I found out two things. One, he's bringing Bobby Taboda in on the weekend that I'm in Colorado, so I won't get to see Bobby for that spring session. And he can't make it to my winter camp because he's got a birthday that weekend, so won't be able to make it over. So it's like I'll probably try to get him to come guest teach at one of my regular classes for my students, just because I want to have them exposed to him. So to me, that's a lot of, my choices for guest instructors is what things I want my students exposed to, and so Bram and Bruce are no brainers, because I want all of my students to understand Bram's modular concepts and his crimp and his bolo. And I want them to all understand the tappy trapping and stick locks that Bruce brings to the table, and his ability to be able to do that with both hands and just switch and flow. Which there's I know there's certain people who teach it in a more regimented fashion, and I think that's that might be a great way to learn it, but I like the way that Bruce does it, because it's so free flow and you can change it and you can do whatever you want with it. And so that's what I want my students exposed to. What he asked me what I wanted him to teach at my instructor camp, and I was like, I want you to teach your tappy trappy, and I want you to show them how to keep it flowing and not to think about it and just to go. And that's what he did. So, it's like, these guys, I can look at very particular skill sets and I can say, Bruce, I need my students to get this. Can you get him that? And he'll get it to them, and I can say exactly the same thing to Bram. I'm like, hey man, we've been working on a Lissy Pilat or pocket stick or, palm stick. Can we focus on crimp a little bit more, because I think that's going to benefit them. It's the same thing. So, that's a lot of where my choice of guest instructors comes in is what skill set do they bring to the table that I know is going to benefit my students.
Gotcha.
That's why I like to have Bram and Bruce. That's why I like to have Dan Lohman. Dan Lohman brings fantastic skill set from Combaton and Kiro and his side of modern Arnis. So, it's, again, like to me, all those are no brainers, because I'm like, I look at what they do and I'm like, this is going to be fantastic for my students. I want you to come. And then more new people, it's like, I'm learning more about Stockton multi-style, and we had Whitney come to one of our
the Colorado
camps And so that was great to be exposed to, to that system from her. And now we're going to get to see a perspective from Chris LaCava and a perspective from Nelson Pinto as well. So it's like, that just helps my students understand history a little bit, because Stockton was, it was the Mecca. It was the place. If you were doing FMA early on in the U.S., you had to probably be doing it around Stockton, because that's where it was going on.
Yeah.
And so, all that to me is part of history, and that's also good reasons why, I want somebody like yourself, Dean, to come in, because, you have skill sets from Burton's curriculum that I would like my students exposed to. And you have skill sets in Piper that I would like my students exposed to. And you have skill sets from LeMayco that I want my students exposed to. So I know bringing you in is always going to be, a good thing for my students. And to me, that's what it's about. I selfishly sometimes bring people in because I want the information, but more often than not, I'm looking out for my students and what's best for them.
Well, it shows. I mean, it shows your selflessness. I mean, that's been exhibited without any shadow of a doubt. Question from Chad. Question from Danny. Are you open to others not from Modern Nice with attending? And definitely.
Always.
Look at the guest instructors.
Yeah. I mean, we have instructors from a lot of other systems. Another that I haven't mentioned yet, Kayan Cahuto is also going to be there. He teaches his Sandaguancali system, which is fantastic. Can't wait to see him.
And Santi will be there. Santi teaches,
Santiago
and
Dobles
it's definitely not Modern Arnis. It's Uncle Bill.
One
to be out there.
Seniors, and he's actually gotten to study with all of the Dutoris brothers. So he's kind of a encyclopedia of the Dutoris Silat. We're actually hoping to have him there both days, Saturday and Sunday.
That'd be fantastic.
We thought maybe he might only be able to be there Sunday, but I think we're going to get him there both days. So, we'll have him. Billy Brown's going to do some of his Maglahawk Kali and Silat with Paracord Sarong. We also have Chris Durbaum, who is Combat Kuntao, and he taught at last year's camp on Sunday morning, and this year we had to move him to Saturday morning, but everybody's super excited to see him again.
He's amazing.
He just brings some amazing quick entries and power, lots of power behind the striking patterns that he does. So everybody just loves his session. I think I got everybody else, and then Ryan Thomas. He's the one who will also be teaching on Sunday. He's going to do a little bit of Dog Brothers history, just so that everybody kind of understands, where Dog Brothers came from and why it was important. It's certainly a big, important part of my history, having spent so much time with Arland and trying to not get hit by his sticks. I spent a lot of time, working in that arena to try to understand how I wanted to fight because I didn't want to fight their way. Because I just saw myself being crushed.
No, it's
I put on some muscle in my ears, but when I was younger, I was a rail.
Yeah.
And so looking at Arlen sticks being like that size
2-inch diameter,
I can't even get hit by that once.
Wow.
So
it's a tough punch.
And I did find out Arlen will be guest teaching at our summer camp this year. So
that's awesome. They're
hopefully
tough punch.
my sock training. The my socks were fantastic last time.
You're putting
they're almost like they're a Thai version of
the Thai version of the pad.
They have a double handle, so it locks in, and literally you can block anything with that. Like we were swinging staffs and stuff, and boom, you just block, and then you're in close range, and all the Thai stuff
you get hit by those things
with your elbows and punches. It's fantastic. So we're gonna have some fun with that.
Tough punch, man. I'm doing Beat the Crap Out of Cancer in Connecticut, and there's full Dog Brothers coming, New York and Massachusetts, and they're tough hombres, man. You
Yep.
know, what's so funny is I went to the one in New York. Man, I was the oldest one there. I was the oldest person there, and I'm like, this is interesting. You know what I mean? But hey, jumped in, and where the pieces fell, the pieces fell. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what the hell else you gonna do, man? You know? Yeah, my song. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions here. All right. Okay, so all right, so we got why you bring folks in and all that. You change the theme. I mean, like each. Well, let's talk. I guess specifics to the winter camp. Um, do you try to cultivate or come up with a theme annually that's different from the previous year?
Yeah, pretty much. I
Okay.
mean, sometimes it boils down to where a majority of people are in my curriculum. You know, if say 20 of the people coming could really benefit from this kind of module in the intermediate level, then we might base the camp around that module so they get a lot of practice at it, and you know, we can work it that way. And then other times it's more of a general overall theme, like this year, like
Mm,
how has your how has your teaching changed, like, you know when you first started swinging a stick and how you swing a stick now, what's different, and maybe you countered things this way, or you put your check hand in a certain way and now you do it a little different. And that, to me, that information is valuable to my students, because everybody who's teaching has years of experience. And so if they do something a certain way, I want my students to hear about it and hear why, because they're gonna gain from that. And they might not choose to do it that way, but at least they're gonna have a perspective about it and be able to say, like, well, he says to check this way for this reason, and so
mm,
I'm going to check that way because that works, that makes sense to me. um, and if you're not exposed to those variations, then you don't have any of those possibilities. You're just going to do the one thing. And so to me, it's like all of us that train with Remy did hundreds of different throws, like hundreds of different takedowns all the time. And so it was kind of like, trying to catalog all of them was like somewhat maddening, because it was kind of like, you would see this one and then you wouldn't see it again for a few months to another camp. And and then some, oh wow, he did a crazy ground takedown, like a ground scissor, and then you wouldn't see that again for a few years, and then
mm.
um but he had all these different ways. And what I realized after a while is that he wasn't doing thousands of different throws. He was doing the same throws a bunch of different ways, but
Ah,
the mechanics were all the same. He would just
okay.
do it a different way on a different day, and everybody would think it was a different throw, but it wasn't a different throw. It was just a variation of throw he does all the time. And so a lot of us that know, like, mobility throw for a professor is kind of what we call putar kapala and silat, and walking throw is kenjutsuko. So it's like he would have different names and he would do things a little bit differently, but you could see that it was all the same. I remember that idea had flashed in my mind at one of Remy's camps, and I think it was the weekend after, or 2 weekends after, I went to a Dan Inosanto seminar in Gaithersburg, Maryland, with Mike Krivka. And I was kind of the odd guy out because this was a JKD group, and I was the modern Arnis dude, came to Gaithersburg from Philadelphia. And so I was just by myself in the corner, and I was warming up, and I was doing Tai Chi, because I've been training Tai Chi since I was a kid. And I felt somebody kind of coming over towards me as I was warming up and doing my form. And when I stopped, I turned around, and it was Danny. He was standing behind me, and he was like, "Hey, I wondered if you could help me with the first part of the session," is because they wanted to talk about throws and takedowns and silat. And watching you do your Tai Chi form, I want you to do some certain Tai Chi postures, and I'm going to do the silat equivalents in terms of
Mm,
takedowns and throws. And so we did that for like the first hour, where I would just do a posture single whip, and he'd be like, "Well, this is a variation of Kenjit." And then Oh, let's do raised hands. Oh, wait, that's Sapu Luar. Oh, let's do, and after that seminar, I was like, it's all the same. All of these throwing arts, the mechanics are identical.
Yeah.
You just got to understand the base mechanics, and then you can do it however you want to do it. So yeah, I mean, that's really one of the ways that my training in Silat with Uncle has integrated so much with my Arnis is that, seeing that all those things are the same, it was like I couldn't separate the stuff I was doing with Uncle from the stuff I was doing with Professor anymore. They immediately blended. They were just like, well, if I'm in the same reference position, I can do this.
Right.
And that's how the Professor taught, and that's kind of how Uncle teaches too. It's like, they want you to get it yourself. They don't want to just give it to you on a platter, because giving it to you on a platter doesn't mean you have it. It means you can copy it. But if you get it and you reproduce it in your own way, then I know for sure you got it. And Uncle's trying to get us to do that all the time. It's like, somebody was telling me they went to one of Uncle's seminars and they were frustrated because every time that he would demonstrate like 3 different techniques, and then he would say, okay, everyone practice. And nobody would know what Uncle wanted them to do. Well, Uncle always teaches like that, and he'll always show like 3 or 4 different things because he wants you to discover what's the same about those 4 techniques. What's the common thread? Gotcha. What's the unifying thread between the 4 different movements that he did? And if you can figure that out, then you could do it 100 different ways. Just like he just did 3 or 4 ways to show you. And so it's like, sometimes people don't like that method of learning because you have to discover it yourself, and you got to put yourself in that learning position. Sometimes people just want to be shown how it's done, and sometimes teachers don't teach that way.
Yeah, right. No, right.
I aspire to teach more like Uncle. I'm the person who, I like organization. I like to have a curriculum. I like to give my students notes, so that they can see the steps 1 through 10 and they can work those steps. But I understand why Uncle teaches that way, because it's whatever I figure out is going to be mine forever.
Yeah, right. Well, your own conclusion.
Right. Whatever I copy from someone else, that's still just copied from somebody else. But if I really figure it out and I give it in my own version, it's mine. Nobody can take it away from me. So, that's what I'm always telling my students. Okay, you just showed me what I showed you. Show me the same concept, but your way. And when they can do that, then I know they got it.
They got it because they're coming.
And Bruce does that all the time in his sessions. He'll say like, "Well, I want you to do this, but I want you to do it your way."
Yeah.
Don't do it exactly like me.
You don't want robots?
Do it your way.
Come on. So with that being said, so Bruce, GM Bruce, and this same question for GM Bruce and GM Bram. Do you think, looking down, you think Remy's happy with Chad's doing with the camp? You think it's emulating his message and what he would want?
No, he'd be pissed.
He would be just totally like, Chad is booted. He's gone. He's done. Even though I can't do anything about it, but he's
no. He loved Chad. I know that for a fact. But
Chad, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And no, I personally think he'd be very happy because, I mean, he really lived by the credo. It's the art within your art. You have to take it and make it yours. And that's what he did with Chad. Chad took what he learned from Professor and made it his. It's still modern Arnis. So he calls it something different, or he holds it different. Still modern Arnis because he made it his. And that's what Professor wanted. He wanted people to take it and make it their own. So I think he'd be very proud.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Remy used to say, you need to innovate, you need to translate. As Bruce said, make it the art within your art. And it's he wanted us to do that with what he didn't want us to be Remy clones. He wanted us to be ourselves using his basis for what we did, because nobody can be a clone of another person, though people try. Yeah. And he'd be really happy at Chad's camp because, again, everybody's having a good time and the instructors are having a good time. Everybody's having a good time making it their own. You know, anyone, if Bruce is teaching and someone's doing it a little differently, if Chad is teaching and some students doing a little, they're the first one to go, God, isn't that cool? Rather than in some of those seminars, that's not what I taught you. That's not what we're doing. It's the exact opposite.
Oh my God, that's not what
at a progressive Arnis camp. And he encourages all of us to teach that way. And then we all encourage the students to do that. Oh, isn't that cool? Yeah, yes. Unlike when Remy would go, yeah, you could do that. And we'd all cringe because that meant, yes, you could, but that wasn't what he's showing us. We truly mean it from the sense of, oh, that's so cool. Yes, you could do that. Yeah, that's the next part. Move on to that. That's okay. You know,
it's funny.
Remy would be smiling. I think because, you know,
if you're not doing something, no, that's not what I showed. That's not what I said. And Chad knows who I'm talking about, and I'll leave it at that. No, that's not.
My wife reminded me too. A lot of people really like the fact that I integrate my healing experience into my camps. I've been doing Tai Chi and Qi Kung since I was a teenager, and I've been an acupuncturist for almost 37 years. And awesome. So we tend to do at the end of each evening, we do a little bit of Tui Na, which is Chinese massage, make sure that, you know, students get, you know, their tensions and bumps and bruises worked out for the day. And sometimes a little bit of Qi Kung breathing just to center the mind, and kind of get them ready. And then we do the same thing in the mornings. A lot of times I'll open the morning up with a session of Qi Kung and Tai Chi just to make sure everybody's warmed up and ready to go, prevent injuries, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, to me, they've always integrated because I learned Chinese medicine because of martial arts. So to me, they've always been tied together. And I always think of the old saying of you got to learn to hurt in order to learn to heal. And you got to learn to heal in order to learn to hurt. And that is 100% true. You know, a lot of the stuff that I learned within my healing really helps and affects my martial arts and makes it more effective. And then vice versa. A lot of the things that I learned in martial arts help me look at Chinese medicine in different perspectives from some people too. So yeah, thanks for my wife reminding that we have that yin side to camp where we try to get everybody, you know, feeling good and
no, that's awesome that you open up with that sometimes. Here's a question. Actually, this could be for all of you, I guess. And, you know, I don't want this to come across political, but at the same time, I think it's neat. I think it's on Chad's behalf, it's worth asking. Why don't I see other folks, and we're going to use minor needs because that's kind of what we're talking about. But folks who are listening, this can go for any art. But since we're talking about minor needs, why do I not see other folks do what you're doing? As far as the quote, which I've heard by virtue of doing these interviews, make the art within your art and this and that. Why do I see other folks doing what you're doing, Chad? Whoever wants to answer first.
Go, Bruce.
Ego.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really mean it. He doesn't have any.
It's like, are they afraid to look outside or to incorporate might be better, or they don't want to keep learning, or they're beyond the student role?
But Dean, some people want to be Remy clones. You can't, and they want you to do it their way, the way they thought Remy did it, and rather than make it your own.
Say that again.
I never lost a student because one of these guys came and taught at my camp.
That's very key, right?
Well,
think about that.
My students are going to come. They're going to learn from these guys, and they're going to want to continue to train with them. But guess what? They're also going to come back, and they're going to continue
because they appreciate your outlook and what you do, and open the doors for them. And I'm going to tell you something that will come back to pay dividends.
Yep.
But it's not indentured servitude, folks. Where
and their ego.
No.
They don't want their students to see that there might be something better than what they're showing.
Absolutely.
But I want my students to see that there's a whole bunch of people that are better than me out there.
I just know for a fact I'm not really pleased about it, but I'm not going to do anything about it. But I've experienced being blackballed here in Connecticut just because. Oh no, I've heard it like, no, don't go see him. He's not going to give you what you want or whatever. Like that. It's like that you would say something that to a student and try to control their journey. You know what I mean? Like you would try to control their journey. That's like the worst thing you can do to a student.
Yeah.
Well, that's how some people teach, and that's how some people impart knowledge is. You can only do what they do the way they do it. And some of the people, and you've even had a couple of them on your show, when they're there, they don't want their students to be better than them. And I think the advantage we all have is we're parents. We always want our children to be better than us, and we keep that attitude towards our students. I want them to be better than me. I want them because that makes me proud. If they can do it, if they're stronger, faster, better, and better instructors than me, I won.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look at the lineage it creates.
Yeah. And Bruce and Chad do something that I do, that we all do, is the other thing is we are not making students. We go out of our way to try to make other instructors. Arts don't survive by making participants. Art survived by making instructors who want to share the art. And the only way they can do that is if they learn that whatever label we call it, modern Arnis, progressive Arnis, super Arnis, whatever, that it's their own. And they carry our soul with them. And within carrying our soul, they carry the professor's soul, the art within their art, and they teach it that way, and the art grows. No teachers, no art. Participants do not mean an art flourishes and continues, as you said, legacy. And the three of us love making other instructors.
Yeah, no, well said by all of you. It just, that really just, one of the things, there were many reasons why I created the show. But one of the lesser reasons, I guess you could say, the one that didn't get made so public, was to basically voice to the mass, like, don't do that to your students, man. The students is the most important piece of the puzzle. It's not the instructor, it's not the system, it's the student. And who the hell are you to do that? That just, it's so infuriating. And I know you guys obviously are not like that. I'm just, I guess, venting on your guys' show. I guess to be honest,
but it's a lot to
know,
There's a lot of that to vent. So it's like,
but I wanted to hear you guys, like what you thought about that. Like, why are others not doing this? Why are they just taking the playbook? And I'm not saying that's necessarily terrible, but
it's stunting the growth of the student.
But it's not, you're not evolving.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like Jason said earlier. It's like, a lot of times my camps are trying to, make you comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think some instructors feel uncomfortable when other people are around teaching, especially if it's stuff that's not what they're doing, because they're concerned that, wait, this is different. What if people like this better? What if, but that's not even on the table. That's not the point of the whole thing. The whole point of the thing is sharing.
Yeah,
when people come to the table to share, then I'm sharing and you're sharing, and so we're both going to benefit. So I don't understand why people don't put that together and they don't want to do the same thing. But yeah, I do agree with you. It's it happens less, as opposed to more. And that's why I'm trying to run more camps and trying to
Well,
have
yeah, no. I mean, you obviously are making a concerted effort, and you demonstrated that where you're trying to change that. And I'm going to do that you guys maybe know. Chad knows. When I take an FMA discussion on the road, the pilot pro. Well, I hate to say pilot. I don't know if that's the correct way to put it, but I guess I should. The guinea pig event is going to be in Carolina, but the next one I want to do is in Florida. A couple in Florida, and Miami is on the target, but with like-minded people. Like I don't really care, but I want like-minded people that are going to share. They're going to bring their students. They're not going to worry about like what we're just talking about now, and that mindset. So obviously, with the Miami thing, definitely you're going to be involved, Chad. And we'll have to get Bram there. We'll have to get Uncle Bruce to. Maybe Chris can bring him down.
Yeah.
You can take an Uber, right? No, just kidding. But here's another thing I want to add. This is for all three of you, and whoever wants to go first, it's up to you guys. I've mentioned this before on the show. Florida seems. I hear about it. I hear about in California and all that, but Florida seems to really have the niche. Or I don't want to say the original, the innovators or what have you, but they seem to have a jump ahead of the curve as far as getting folks together from different styles and FMA and run this. And I've seen it in Northern Florida. Obviously, you do it, Chad. I've seen it other folks doing it. Why do you think that is? And do you think I look at you guys as kind of leader in that area. When I look at doing by virtue of the shows, I see what comes through FMA discussion, and Florida really just does it well. Like, and again, this is all for all three of you. What do you attribute it to? Whoever wants to go first.
I went first last time. Someone else.
All right, Bram, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think. I'm not a native Floridian. I come from outside of New York, and the Connecticut. I'm up from you. I'm a Connecticut Yankee, and and a Green Mountain boy. I think when you get to Florida, it's a melting pot. A lot of people from other places come to Florida. And, California was that kind of thing, California dream, and here I come, before it became California with a K and without me getting political, without whatever those people there. But Florida still has that it's a state that we've come to with dreams. And we came here to experience our dreams. And outside of New York was a hotbed of New York, and that's where official karate was. We all looked. The slick stuff was black belt and that kind of stuff coming out of California, and Florida's the other place. I was a competitive swimmer. The only place I could go was leave New England and go to California, come to Florida, because it's a sports-minded area because of the weather. Well, martial artists come here, and for Philippine martial arts, there's a very large Filipino community here that go all the way back to the Spanish colonial times of them traveling with the Spanish. Around me, eventually I'm bringing, my family here from the Philippines. Well, we have Philippine markets here. We have whole shopping malls where we actually have a Jollibee's down the street. The other Philippine, when Remy lived here on the side, he would go, because he left San Francisco. When he got down here, he goes, "Oh, Bram, it's like the Philippines. The only thing we don't have are mountains. I mean, we got the jungle, the Mount Garbage, where they're piling all the garbage up, and we have our mountains. But we're the only tropics. We have palm trees, we have beaches, we have very humid weather, and the sun and the culture of Florida, which again is a melting pot from other places. Sports are a big thing. Martial arts are a big thing. We're the people who compete with California, and we do it better. Sorry to all you California people.
No, I think
that Stockton, where people went to work in the fields. But they didn't come to work the fields here. They've been here since the Spanish got here as part of the whole community. And that culture, if you're open to it, is already here.
Right.
You know,
I
so
think
we compete with California because they have areas where Filipinos went to work coming from the Philippines. And we have an area where Filipinos came because they come here since Spanish colonial times. So it's a place, it already is open for FMA. Even if it's not in the surface, you have to go look for it. It was already in the area here. Other parts of the
I
country
think
might have to go search
Miami
for
is
it.
just an integrated area. Like South Florida and Florida in general is just integrated. Like nobody even considers, where you might be from. You're just kind of accepted because we got so many people from so many different places.
Yeah.
And I think that attitude translates across, the board, because then when you get to martial arts, we're just more accepting. Like we just kind of, oh, okay, cool. You do this system, cool. Let's check it out. Like, and that attitude, is just I think it's a Florida, stigma.
It might be
Yeah.
because I look at the Sama Sama way back in the day with Bo. Bo was doing that way back in the day, having
right.
other instructors coming.
That's right.
So I'm like one of the few people that's actually born here. I'm a native Floridian. And when I went away for 20 years, I come back. What I've experienced is I think I don't know much about the history and all the stuff like Bram was talking about, but I will tell you that my experience is the people here that I've met really are less jaded. And it's not suspicion first. It's not, what are you trying to get from me? It's your angle. It's, hey, come on in. If you go over to Bram's house, he's going to invite you in for a cup of coffee. It doesn't matter. It's just the way he is. And I think and as far as the martial arts goes, because there's such an influx, yes, but they are just less jaded. Really? What do you got? That's cool. Show me that. Let's do that. And that's my personal experience has been that way here.
Yeah.
It makes sense that the people are just less jaded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it has obviously definitely something to do with the people. Renee Growling Dog has got a question here. And his question is, are any of you guys ever meet Count Dante?
John Keenan died long before I would ever have had a chance to meet him. And, that whole story of who he was, what he did, the whole backstory. And you got to understand, whatever the Black Dragon says, and people would laugh about Dimmock and what we would know as Dumog and Kyushu Jitsu and pressure points, turns out to be not as mystical as it was back then.
Okay.
So whatever John Keenan actually did as Count Dante and his marketing is not as outrageous now as it might have seemed back then, and put it in the nickel comic books. Oh, I reach out and touch you and you'll fall down. Well, guess what we find out? Chad knows he's an acupuncturist. It's like a chiropractor, an osteopath. If I can touch you, you're going to be in a world of freaking hurt, because guess what? I can turn you on and off. And if you guys can't hear, I haven't coughed this whole time. That's because of Chad. Chad came over. I couldn't stop coughing. I don't take medicines anyways, but Dr. Chad came and treated me on Friday to make sure I would live through Friday night and teach all Saturday. And Chad, look, I'm still not really coughing. That's because he's doing John Keenan, Count Dante's real name. Let's do pressure points, acupuncture points.
We got
okay.
Eric O'Brien.
So, and that whole thing of again, in the Chicago type area, people fighting each other about whose style was better. I mean, there's a whole backstory to that. But people only know Count Dante and his pose, John Keenan and his pose in the ads. And like I said, out of context in those times, that was ridiculous, because if you couldn't punch through a wall, it's not karate. Now we know there's whole bunches of stuff, because that's long before Chinese arts were taught in public, before any kind of other stuff was done. And now we know there's a whole variety of stuff that are out there. And some of what he alluded to is not as sci-fi and mystical.
Mm.
You know, it actually was real. But no, I knew people who knew him because of
Right.
my association with people, because I was in Junri karate, you know, and out in the Midwest, and also which became Mid America Karate, and through them I got to meet other people there who had known of him and whatever. But to answer the guy's question, no, no Count Dante. Though I never had any dislike for him, and like I said, the backstory is so bizarre, anyways.
Eric had a good comment.
Yes. We'll go. Yes. Eric is a true Floridian. I mean,
I guess I could do that. You know, T13 could be the new Count Bante. I could put on my cyborg stuff and
this is.
get my fingers out there and
But he's got a brother.
touch someone.
Count Dante.
I want to see the other one with the wig first, though.
Didn't you see that today? I posted. I accidentally shut it off. So the last quarter of what I was talking turned out the camera was off. But yeah, KJP T13 was already on, wig and all, hiding the documents.
Well, I know you guys all know Al Dente, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Renee's a funny man. And we got, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything or any questions. All right, let's get some needed information for those who may come. All right, so official start time on the camp search.
February 3rd at 4 p.m. We start at
Friday,
1600.
Kicks off.
Friday, 4 p.m. We go till 8. And then Saturday is 8 to 8 with a lunch break. And then Sunday is 8 to 2.
Hey, Chad.
Yes.
Do you want to let people know how they can reach you to register?
Yeah, Dean, you can always throw my email
Yeah,
up
I can do that.
or whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to, in the comments, I'll...
Yeah, and also you can go up to Chad's Facebook page, you know, Progressive Arnis Winter Camp.
Yep.
They can do that. Or acting as a general manager for Chad as T13, you can send all payments and checks to me, and I'll hold them for Chad.
Oh, you'll hold them in department.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, we got a question in. Let me see here. Okay, where is it? So Arcadia, right?
Arcadia, Florida, at the Peace River Campground.
East River Campground.
Peace River.
Peace River.
Like not war.
Peace River Campground. Eric, you got that? Same as last year. Campground. All right, Arcadia. Okay.
Mute button, but it's okay.
So, and I think what I'll do is I was giving some thought to it. Let me just see here. Hey, gents, congrats on the camp. And just in case Dean is having a beat the crap out of cancer, I will be doing a private beat the crap out of cancer at Chad's camp. He just doesn't know it yet. No, I'm just kidding.
Yay.
Just kidding. Okay, so
it's okay. You're also doing something else at camp that you don't know. You're going to demo Burton's staff system.
Yeah, he's been giving me, and I've been doing a lot of sparring, and I got nailed in a pinky so hard. It's coming back down, but yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I could tell you when you get hit in the pinky with a staff, it's not fun. Not to say that's nothing major. I mean,
I almost convinced Odessa to come back, but she had to fly out to Iraq. She's in Baghdad right now.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
I was going to have Odessa was tempted to fly back out to be at the house, and I was going to bring her to the camp. But she just told me yesterday she was on her way to Baghdad. She has to go back to fight the bad guys.
Fight the bad guys. Okay.
That might be a little more important than my camp.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It depends on everyone's priorities, you know.
Let's see here. All right. Carmen is requesting if you could bring your camera down, Bram, so that she can't see your handsome face. Careful, Dean. Don't get a staph. Don't get. This guy kills me, man.
You know what Chad also likes best? Bruce and I each bring our own punching dummy with us.
Punching dummy.
Yeah, we have our own crash test. Bruce brings
Bruce
Chris
shares
and I
his.
bring David, and so
I bring
we don't
mine.
have to
I
worry
thought
about
Chris
killing
was
any of
the
the other
all-around
students because we bring our own crash test dummies to do our thing too.
I thought
He's
Chris
still-
was the official crash test dummy.
Yeah, he's still young enough to like it.
Yeah.
If I remember last year, he was the official crash test. I didn't see
He
anybody
was.
else.
Yeah, I used him and David yesterday.
So
I've realized that Chris always looks at me and he's disappointed if I haven't done a technique on him. So
he's like, yeah, by now he's probably feeling left out. I can't believe you didn't use me as a dummy. What you had me what's here? Well, Jim Chad let me use Oscar yesterday, so I guess it's fair. Boy. Chris is durable. Chris is a durable dude. Per Eric. Eric is further volunteering Chris. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Brother Bruce, I sent my nephew, your son, home in sort of one piece early this morning.
I know. Thank you.
So, okay. Guru Chad, closing thoughts for folks that are watching or will watch this regarding your camp.
Jason said it in the comments earlier. It's like, you know, we always tie stuff together and we're always kind of linking up concepts so that the students have a connecting thread. But, we can talk about that a lot, but you kind of have to be there. The way that you get that is to be at camp and to kind of see the three of us teach and see us teach with the other guest instructors and see how it all integrates and what you get out of that experience. It's different than just a camp, and I think Jason said something about that earlier as well, which is, yes, it is a camp. It's a martial arts camp, and you're going to come and you're going to learn a bunch, cool martial arts stuff. But at the same time, there's the side conversations with which Matt Anasari talked about. And he's like, some of the golden nuggets that I've gotten in the past couple of years, I've gotten from sitting at the fire or sitting, at dinner with somebody and talking to them and getting to ask them straightforward questions that I would never get the chance to ask them, and so, the camp creates those kind of experiences, and people get to hang out and it was a couple years ago, one of the camps I did in Lake Placid, Florida. I brought my friend Dr. Mark Chung from California. I brought him in as a guest instructor. And the first night when we had finished teaching, and he thought we were going to ship him off to the hotel, and then he was going to basically have to, spend the rest of the night in a hotel. And we were like, no, dude, we're going to have dinner, and then we're going to hang out at the fire, and then we're going to, train all night. And he was like, oh my God, I get to stay and I get to do all that stuff with you guys, and he was just super happy that he got to, do more than just teach his sessions, that he was going to get to participate in everything. So it was like, that's usually what most of the instructors are like. They're like, cool, we're going to get to hang out now and just chill at the fire and, and talk this and talk that. And, that's what everybody loves, and
until it comes.
Yeah. I like I like hanging out with the older guys. Like last year, I enjoyed chopping up with the older guys, the wisdom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all that. Like, to me, they have just their stories. They've been around. You know what I mean? I just like listening.
That's one of the comments I hear the most often at the end of camp is that, I just love the stories. Like, oh man, I got so many good stories this year that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, agreed.
That's what it's all about.
I'm a sucker for older people.
Yeah.
In there. So
yeah, that would be my thing to say, in closing about camp, is that you got to come experience it. You got to come be there and hang out and learn and then make your own impression. At the end of camp, you'll get to say like what you thought it was about.
Yeah, and if you can't come for 3 days, come for one day.
We get a big circle, and then I point at one person in the circle and I say, okay, tell us what you thought. Like, how was your weekend? Tell us your comments, your complaints, your criticisms, whatever. And everybody goes around and tells what they felt. And sometimes it is. Sometimes people are like, oh man, I got really intimidated during this part. I remember one of the years at summer camp that I had Martin Wheeler come in. And Martin does some, pretty rough and tumble Systema classes. And so I remember that year he came in and did a moving and striking class, which is like one of his Systema basics. And we just started the class by basically walking towards each other and punching each other. And he would basically say a number and we would just punch each other that number of times. And he basically went from 1 to 10 back down to 1. And then we
good way to make friends.
And then we did that with everybody in the room. And then at the end of, 45 minutes, when we had basically punched each other for 45 minutes, he said, okay, is anybody afraid to hit anybody now? And everybody was like, no, we've been getting hit all this hour. And he was like, okay, now we can spar and nobody's going to get hurt because, and the theme of that camp was, how do you get beginners to spar without having the fear of injury and things like that? And Martin's method was, well, let's just hit each other for an hour and then we'll be ready to spar because nobody's going to care. you know? And at the end of the camp, Carmen was like, when we went around the circle, she was like, oh man, that was really intimidating. And she's like, to just get punched by everybody, I didn't know if I could do that. And then at the end, she was like, yeah, I can do that. And I did do that. And she's like, I'm used to getting hit with a stick, but now I'm used to getting punched. And it was like, you could see how people grow through the camp just by the things they say at the end of the camp. And I don't know if Bram and Bruce remember, but when my son Zayn, when he was much younger, like probably his late teens, when he would come to the camp, he would just basically be like, well, I got to be here because my dad's, the teacher, and, and stuff like that. And now when he comes to camp at the end, he's like, I love to come to these camps because these are like the realest people in the world. And you can actually have real conversations with them and, and talk. And to see him go from like, oh man, I have to be here, to these are the realest people I could talk to, that's, an amazing growth. So that's what I love to see. I love to see that growth at camp.
Awesome. Closing thoughts, GM Bruce.
I echo those sentiments. It's something you really have to experience. Chad's camp, it's something you can't get by just us telling you about it. And then also, Dean, thank you for putting these things on.
No problem. Happy to do.
More people.
Danny, they have a ton of RV sites that you can bring an RV and hook up. And then there's tent camping that's included. So
yeah, it's a great place too.
Yeah. They're very nice people. We've been trying a couple different places throughout the years for winter camp, and some of the venues have voiced their opinion of how they didn't like us there. So we quickly moved on. But last year in particular with the Peace River Campground, they were so nice to all of our people, and
they really
so
were at the front desk.
They were just really great. So I was kind of like, man, if we can go back there, I want to go back there because they were just nice people, and I would rather work with nice people.
Yeah, they were very nice. Yeah. Closing thoughts, GM Bram?
I was starting, didn't realize the guy's in. I can't hear Chad all the time, so I didn't realize I was talking over him. what Chad said about, and Bruce said, you got to experience it. You can only come for one day. Come for one day. This is not, you got to come for all 3 days. Come for part of a day. Chad will, he's got prices for everything. And guess what? Come play with us.
Yeah.
We want people there. If you're able to make the drive, come see that beautiful part of Florida. Come train with us. Spend time with us and eat, because you'll always remember it, and then you're going to be hooked. Just be warning, it's addictive. So before you come, just know you're going to want to come back. We already, Dean's addicted. This is going to be Dean's second time. We've got him hooked in.
I think the atmosphere is just so. I wasn't, not that I had any negative thoughts coming into it. Not so whatsoever. Actually, it's just the opposite. I guess I was incredibly pleasantly surprised just how open and welcoming everybody was. You know what I mean? And for those who are watching, if you can make it, in my opinion, is a template that I think will be further expounded upon by others. And to be honest, why I'm coming up with, FMA discussion going on the road in certain geographic areas and pulling instructors from those particular areas, I give credit where it's due. And part of my inspiration was from what Chad's doing down there. And I'm going to, much as humanly possible.
Isn't that cultural appropriation? And Chad's going to have to take you to court for that.
Well, well, I sent him a check, so there's going to be no lawsuit. So,
we worked out percentages way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted. So,
All right, gentlemen. I know you said closing arguments. I've had a few notes across the top because my family from the Philippines is trying. They're just waking up, so they've been contacting me. It's the Center Lab Festival just ended. So I love you all. I will see you shortly. I'll talk to you all behind the scenes as well. If you pardon me, I'm going to sign off and go check in with Nova.
Go ahead. No, thank you for coming on.
My love to all of you. I'll see you later. And I'll see all of you in the audience at Chad's camp.
There we go. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Nice.
So awesome. But yeah, so that's going to kick off. I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to go well with the right people, and Miami is on the list. I'd love to have any of you in the PTI spring camp. When Coach Sandy, what are the dates again for that? I'm sure he'll be putting them down soon. If that's not conflicting, that'd be kind of neat. Louisiana, never been. You guys ever been to Louisiana?
Drove through.
I used to teach a seminar in Alexandria.
Stop at Orlando on the way to. Chris, the plan also, Chris, is to do one in the Orlando area as well. So that's a thought too, Chris.
Danny, that's the same weekend I'm teaching a camp in Colorado. But let's stay in touch. I want to talk.
Is that my kid, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah. So the plan, Chris, is I want to do Miami first, and then I would do one. I guess you could say upper Florida. I guess
Central.
Nice.
But yeah, that's the plan anyhow. But Miami is. I think it's gonna be fun. We get Bram, go Chad. Somebody's moving down there. I can't say who it is yet, but you guys will be very excited that he'll. So. But anyway, well, I appreciate you guys coming on. This is great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like I'll be seeing you guys in a few weeks. Right?
Yeah, February 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
I mean, be like 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks or so. Yeah.
Yep, 3 weeks.
Okay.
Dean, thank you.
Absolutely. You guys have a good rest of the weekend or Sunday night, and be in touch.
Bye, everybody.
All right. See ya.
All right. Take care. I got you. Yeah. All right, that wraps up 366, folks. Next Wednesday night, Lightning Scientific. I think the test run is going to be Monday, so that'll be episode 367. And then Friday night, Justin Fernando, part of the Boudoir up Canada. So he'll be coming on Friday night as well. So, yeah, we're supposed to go in Florida in February. Hopefully I can persuade her to go. Yeah, there you go. Tell her Arcadia. Yeah. Yeah. So, at any rate, you heard it. Camp, Chad's camp, first weekend in February, kicks off at Friday afternoon and ends Sunday at 2:00. So yeah, if you guys are gonna make it, I did post a link here where you just click on that and it'll give you all the other information that you want and all that. And if you are in New England, in the wonderful tax states there, whether it be Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, you want to take your anger on those taxes, come beat the crap out of cancer. That will be the following weekend to Chad's camp, actually. It will be Saturday at, I believe it's 10 to 1. Yes, 10 to 1, Saturday 11th. But great time. You know what I mean? Come there, great guys. It's pretty self-explanatory what you want to do. But again, if you got some frustration and you live in New England, here's your outlet. All right, folks. Thank you for those who watched and tuned in, and we will see you next time. All right.